first STEM video, and this week for our STEM video we are going to be talking about something that happened that was very special. It happened across the country, and here in my area it was very exciting. So what I'm talking about, of course, is the eclipse that just happened 2 days ago. And so it was the first time in a very long time that the eclipse has actually gone across the United States from one side to the other side, from shore to shore. And in my area, we didn't get a total eclipse, but we did have 98% of the sun covered by the moon. That's pretty awesome. And there were a lot of interesting things that happened. So I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to do our first STEM video just for you guys. So the first thing I want to talk about today is how to set up for these science experiments. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is have yourself a handy science journal. See, it could be anything that you want it to be, any sort of notebook, but just something that we can keep our thoughts and our notes in about what we're doing as we're going through these activities, or any other activities that you may do at home or at school or any place in nature. So I'd like to share with you what is inside my science journal. My science journal is going to be filled with all sorts of notes as we go along. But the first thing that I want to teach you guys is about something called the scientific method. Now, what is that? That is something that our scientists use to learn new things. It's a process that they go through. So every scientist out there does this. The first thing that they want to do is ask a question. So in our case, our question could be, what exactly happens during an eclipse? Then they want to do background research. Research means they just look into what's happened when this particular thing has happened before. So for our example, what happened last time there was an eclipse? What does happen during an eclipse? So I had heard some interesting things about what might happen. For example, the sky might go dark, or the animals might start acting like they're going to bed and acting strange. Construct a hypothesis. Now, what is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is just an idea of what's going to happen. So in our case, with the eclipse, our question was, what happens during an eclipse? So our hypothesis is the answer to that question. I think that my hypothesis is going to be, during an eclipse, if you wear your proper equipment, you can see changes in the environment as well as in animal life around you. Then you want to test with an experiment. So in our case, our experiment was the actual eclipse. And I do have some information about that coming up, so hang with me on that one. Then you want to collect your data. Your data is just your information that you got from doing your experiment. And that's why we have our journal, our science journal, so that we can write down our notes. Then you think about the data, you analyze it. That's just a fancy-nancy word for thinking about it. So we think about it and we find out, were we right? Was the question that we answered, was our hypothesis correct? And then at the very end, we want to tell people. If we don't tell people what we've learned, then how will anyone learn anything new? So that is what we're doing today. I'm going to tell you guys what I got out of the eclipse. So let's get started. Okay, so now that we've gone over the scientific method, let's quickly review before we get started with our information about the eclipse. So our very first question in our scientific method was, what is going to happen during an eclipse? We want to know. And I did do a little research, and I found out that we could expect it to get darker, the temperatures would get a little colder, that the animals might start acting a little funny because they think that it's nighttime instead of daytime. So I came up with a hypothesis that that is exactly what would happen, and that I needed to wear my safety goggles in order to observe all these things happening, or else it might not look right. So next part, armed with my proper equipment, I went out and I viewed the eclipse. So these handy things were my Eclipse glasses. I'm sure that everybody had a fancy pair of these when we were watching the eclipse. And when you put them on, I can't see anything. I'm completely blind right now. But the most amazing thing happened when I looked at the sun. The sun is so bright that it was able to shine right through these glasses. And because these glasses were so dark and had a special rating, it didn't hurt my eyes. But you know, if you go out and you look at the sun without special goggles, it will hurt your eyes. So that's why you have to wear the special equipment. So I had my glasses, I had my journal, and I had a recording device. This is my iPad. I could also use my iPhone, my camera, whatever it is that you have, because you want to. In this instance, this was something that we observed and I wanted to share it with you, so I took some videos. So let's find out what happened during the great eclipse.
After you guys spend all day out here with me.
Wasn't that cool? So, after the eclipse, what I had to do was write down everything in my science journal so that I wouldn't forget. And then I could compile all of my evidence and bring it to you. And so we found out that the hypothesis is in fact true. We saw the animals getting ready for their nighttime routines. We could hear the birds chirping their nighttime songs. We could hear all the crickets. There were a ton of bugs that came out that were nighttime type bugs doing nighttime type routines. I've still got the bites on my legs to prove that. We had those strange shadows that would show us, they were called pinhole shadows, that would show us actually what the sun looked like currently, and that's why the crescent shape was going on, because it was shining through the surface of the moon, or the craters on the moon's surface. And let's see, what else did we see? We saw that it was getting darker outside. It did start to get darker outside, and it looked more like dusk. It had kind of this brown dark tone, whereas during the middle of the day, normally at 2:30, it's very bright and crisp with the sun shining. So it looked like it was a lot darker at night, and we got to see all the strange behaviors from the animals. So I hope that you guys had fun and that you got a chance to witness the eclipse in person. Leave me a comment if you did. I'd love to know what your experience was. Share a picture. Or if you have a video to share, feel free to do so down in the comments. And I hope that we will see you next time here at We Be Reads. Bye.